To make the earrings, I'm going to start with 4.5 to 5 inches of 28 gauge copper weaving wire, and I've spooled up about 25 rounds of it, 25 times around the spool here for my earrings. And the frames will be two 18 gauge round soft copper wires. You could also use square, and you could also use 20 gauge if you want to. These are pretty cute. These are cut to 8 inches long each for the earrings. The beads I'm using, they're so cute. I'm going to use, and you can use any of these, but these are 2mm green garnets. You could also use the peridot and the little dark green mix of beads that we used for all of the other trees. This is a mix of peridot and I think green apatite, maybe some dark green opal chips. And I'm going to probably blend some of these tiny little peridot with these garnets, and then I'm going to put some of these pink ones in for blossoms, right? So I have the cutest little faceted pink quartz right here. I think those are. These might be Chinese crystal. They might be garnets. I'm not sure. I think these are all natural gemstones, so those might be garnets. So to make my earring frames, I'm going to start with 18 gauge round soft copper wire. And I'm just going to cut the ends to make sure that they're really nice and clean. I'll get my round nose pliers, and I'm going to get to about the middle of my plier. Just grip the wire, go around and make a loop. Go, make kind of like the letter J, and then you can switch your plier up a little bit, regrip, turn, regrip. And just try to get into a nice spiral pattern like this. And before you go on, I would do the other one to see if you can get it close. And just go with the same direction, right? So get into the middle of your plier. You can mark your plier with a Sharpie if you want to. I'm just going to eyeball it. And I'm leaving a little bit of space. I think this one I got a little bit. I'm leaving a little bit of space. This is about 2mm, right? Get that one turned just a little bit more. And that's not bad. It's a good place to start. Eventually they're going to be mirror opposites. There we go. But you can still turn them both in the direction that your hand is comfortable. So once you get a nice spiral started, you can switch up to either a nylon jaw, or you can switch up to a nice flat plier, but I would put tape here, or make sure those edges are smooth so that you don't dent your wire. Your leverage is here on, I usually find that if I get it right here on the curve, then my wire will turn for me a little easier. And I'm kind of holding way back here so I bow the wire a little bit as I go, right? These are small moves. I'll regrip, hold nice and tight. This is 18 gauge, so it's a little thicker. Go until you can't go. Regrip. Try to keep the distance between each of these coils nice and consistent. The further out, and sometimes you can go a little bit back and forth. Just try to make the roundest, curve that you can. Take your time. Just let it bow. See how I'm to help me get the curve. Small moves. Make sure you don't get into the metal of the plier here as your coil grows. So I would pause right there. This is about 3/4 inch round. So what do we do? One, so from the dot, 1, 2.5 times, and we'll just pause right there. And then we'll do this one. Grip. Just start to bow the wire around. Keep control over the space. Regrip. Focus on small, graceful moves. Try to keep that spacing consistent. If you bend too fast, what happens is that sometimes you get a straight line rather than a nice curve all the way around. So let's see. I'm close. I'm going to go a little bit more. What I'm looking for to help me gauge my way around is where this little end is, right? So I try to keep them consistent as I'm working around both of these wires. So I ended with it kind of up like that. So I try to end the second one a little bit up like that, and that's pretty close. I'm happy enough with that. I'm going to get this last little round a little closer. So that's pretty good. So you've made like 2 number 6s here. Okay? And they're pretty even, about 3/4 of an inch. I can go a little bit more now that they've evened up a little bit. Regrip right here at this curve. Let my wire bow as I turn. The bigger this spiral gets, you know, sometimes it'll get a little harder to keep these nice elegant turns. So just work slow. Okay. Just bring it back to a number 6. We went all the way around again. So now we'll go around this one again. So grab it here at this curve. Try to keep your distance consistent. And my points, if I make the number 6, my 2 end points are pretty much in the same place. So that's a pretty even turn. That's pretty good. Okay, so certainly now to make them mirrored, all we have to do is turn one the other direction. So I'm going to go to about here with my turn because I want my earring to be almost 1 whole inch all the way around, and then you should have a couple little inches left, you know, for a back bend. Okay, so you can do yours however you want, but remember that we got to fit a tiny little tree on here. So I'm going to turn it back to where my hands have familiar motion. Just go back and forth a little bit. Remember that it gets a little harder the bigger the spiral gets. If you don't like that last one, you can just fiddle it a little bit. So right about here, I turned about another half around this. And right about here, I've got an 1.5 inches, no, I've got 2 inches. From the top of this to here is 2 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to grab it right here and just start to turn it towards the spiral a little bit. Let's get this one caught up. Now I've made like 2 little 9s. And I think I have to turn this one a little bit more, or I have to turn this one back a little bit. Just work patiently. That's pretty good. Just cheat and cut that little bit off if it's that close. We're going to cut it off anyway. So get them kind of, lined up evenly from each other here. See, I'm looking at where the points are so that I know I need to turn this one just in and skinny it up a little bit. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. From here, you can mark. If you're on a straight line, on your measure, on your Cricut board, you could just mark a straight line. But if you're not, just go from here, from the tip of the inside spiral. Make a little mark. Same on this side, just go over from the tip of the inside spiral. Make a little mark. You can also measure from here to here if you feel like you're pretty even. And then cut off, leave about a 1/2 inch and trim. To get them even. You take your round nose plier and right down here just make a little bend. Type it back behind there and just have it point at the tip there. Just keep your little curve. Okay, something like that. Looks pretty good. From this side too now. Remember that you need to keep them opposite, right? So make sure that you got them going in the opposite direction. Get your plier on that little mark. Just make a downward bend, nice and soft. Point it straight at the tip of your spiral. Just like that. Okay. Once you get that set up, from here, right below, or right at, once you get that set up, right here at the first spiral, you can grip with your plier. It might be a little tight. If you can't do it with your fingers, you can get a second plier out, but basically you're gonna hold this little bit and bend this guy straight out, right at the base of that first curve. Okay. This side, same thing. Hold it right there at the base of the, you know, about 2 millimeter in, so just enough to get you to that first spiral. Nice and tight. Just work it steady. Bend it straight out. You know, that should give you a 1/2 inch post. If you feel like you need a little bit more, you know, leave yourself a little bit more here, but that should comfortably get through an ear and then give you room enough to put a little back hook on. We don't have to do this at all. We can make these into swinging earrings, and I might just do that actually at the end of the day here. We just make them swinging earrings. Okay, so now we'll just hammer these. So I'll get my bench block out. And hardened up a little bit. So from here, I'm going to take this side and just pull it out slightly and hook it through. Don't force anything, just like that. And then you can close this up. Get a small plier to help you. Brace it against your thumb here so you got some leverage. And then just bend this up nice and neat right there at the frame. You can get another plier. Try to stay straight. Just close it up on itself like that. Once you get close, you just take a little snip right here, leaving just enough to close around that frame. And I'm just going to tap that down. Actually, I can cut that a little bit closer. Just real nice. Tap it together. Tap that little edge down a little bit. Make sure you don't feel anything. And you still have the nice gap here between the top and the bottom. And you're still pretty much centered, you know, over the bottom loop. So that'll help you. So with this one too, just back bend a little bit. Just be real careful, make little adjustments if you need to. And then back here, I'm going to snip it so that I'm just a couple of millimeters over the frame. Get a nice small plier. Oh, and help me carefully tap it back so that it lays down nice and neat right there. Okay, just like that. And when you hold them together, they should be fairly even. They don't have to be perfectly round or anything like that, but just nice and neat. All right, so now we have a place to build our earrings. Okay, so now that you have the primary earring frames made, we'll get our little 28 gauge tree sculpture wire and we'll cut it off the spool. So I'm just going to release it out of my cardboard here. I usually just cut the cardboard to whatever length I need and then go around as many times as I need. Make these little flippers and, you know, just park this on your bench until you're ready to make some tree earrings. So take those out and hold everything with your fingers up here where we're going to cut. So with my thumb I've got all the strands. I'm going to take a nice sharp cutter. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go blades up and then sneak the cutting end of the blade underneath all of these wires. Give a nice snip. Just kind of whittle over and snip through all of them. You can get rid of these two little ends so that everything is the same length. Once you get them, you've got them cut, just pull them off the cardboard. Keep them all together. You can make, you know, half of this is for one and the other half is for the other one. So we'll cut this in half right here, like that. And then while you have a hold of these, go ahead and carefully take these ends off. You'll want to do that over a paper towel or over your trash. I'm going to do them over my trash. Just barely cut off, you know, the upper 1 or 2 millimeter here just to get these curly tips off. Once you have these tips cut off, just keep everything in your fingers. Keep the strands separate. Come to this side. I shifted a couple of them. And just cut the tips off. Now that I have my ends cut off, I'm just going to park one strand, put a little bit of tape around it, put it aside, and I'll work with this one. Okay, so I've got my branch here, and I'll just hold it about in the center, maybe a little bit lower than the center, and just right here you can split this bundle in half, maybe about the center, and then make a few twists. Okay, make 3 of them, and then you can come down, split this stack in half, get these things out of the way, and then you can twist all the way down. Each of these, I'll just do this side while I'm here. Okay. Just twist them all the way down. And then right here, you can twist them together. And as it bends up here, so we've got probably, I've got 4.5 inches, so this is probably 2.5, 3 inches left. And I'm just going to split them right here. Split these. Make a little twist. You can split these. They don't have to be equally split. Make a couple of little twists there. So just do like this and then we'll split. You can split a couple more times up here. Just make one nice tight turn at the base and get a couple of little tiny branches going out. Maybe 2 tight turns. Just try to make it real delicate. pull these out kind of 90-degree too. Sometimes it's easier to twist them. Get a couple of them there, and then I'll put them back. Get a few twists there, and I think with this one, I might just twist them all the way out, this one. And if I feel like it, I can split these and do some really fine branches out. There's just 3 of them here, so I'm just going to chicken feed them, you know, part them out like this, kind of fan them out, and then just turn them all 3 together like that. Just get them all the way out. Same with this, there's 3 of them, so I'm just going to twist 3 of them together. Just get a little bit of interest like that. And here I only have a couple of them. So you've got some finer branches in there. They're cute. And then maybe this one will just be, you know, a couple of thicker ones. We'll just twist these totally out and we won't part them any more than this. So this one will be a nice big thick one. Now just kind of work them into some interest here. They're just very tiny, so you know, hardly have to do anything. Just kind of cross them a little bit. You know, get a little spot of interest right about here. If you feel like you need to get them a little tighter, because it's a smaller amount of wire, so it was a little harder to turn, you can get some pliers and just delicately give some more twist. If you need to. Okay, let's do this one. I feel like I need to. So I'll do this one. Just tighten these up a little bit. Get right in there. into the center. You know, then you just get these turns a little tighter right there at that intersection. You're not crushing the wire here, you're just holding on enough to turn it. That looks pretty good. If I need to do these two, I'll get them together like this. Turn it like that. So now I've got a very nice, tight tree sculpture right there. Very small, very cute. I'll put that down and I'll do the second one. Just take this tape off. And it doesn't have to look exactly the same because they're trees. But you can make them look sort of similar. I'm just going to turn these. You know, and of course, if you want to do roots, you can, you know, spread them all out like the other ones we used to do, or that we've done previously. So just turn these two big roots out, and then I'll turn them together to one big cable. And then up here, apart them. Give a couple of nice tight twists right there. Then do this one. Give a couple of nice tight turns. And then just part them and twist them to your liking. Try to keep them similar in size anyway. I'll do this last one out here. And this one I'll make the thick one this time because I have a big thick one on the opposite side. So I'll just turn this one all the way out from here. And I've got only two on that one, so let me see. Oh, and I'll just get two. Sometimes you have two, sometimes you have three. It's okay if they're different. And then again, you can pull it out kind of 90-degree here if it's hard for you to turn. Sometimes a little easier. 3 on this one. Just keep turning in the same direction. Remember not to, if you start turning in the opposite direction, you untwist yourself. You unturn your tree. All right. We're almost to the beading part. Just keep those aside and we'll tighten them up. Keep them in between the pads of your fingers. It's a little bit easier to turn them. But when you get down to so little wire, it's a little bit hard sometimes. Just work patiently. And then this one I think I'll just part and turn these out. And then we'll tighten things up with a delicate little plier. Just make sure to grab very much, very close to the intersections here. Hold that branch and then just give a couple of turns if you need to tighten them up. Don't over tighten. You don't need to over tighten anything. Just make it look nice. That looks pretty good. I've got a nice little interest in the middle. Looks cute and similar to the other one. Doesn't have to be though. Okay. And then now we can attach them to our frames. So I've made these two little spiral frames here. So on our frame, I can kind of get this tree centered. So this would be where my hook is going to go. And so you can center your tree how you like. So I'm going to have this tree kind of like this, just this tiny little new spring tree. Once you get it, so like here is the breast of my tree, or the main split, I'll just put it right here underneath the spiral so that I can kind of size the other one. When you get it, just hold on to the center of it. Use your finger. Work the branches through. If it's a little hard for you to do with your finger, you can always get the plier. These are really thin branches, so they should be very easy for you to work. Don't tighten them up too much. Let's get them all secured. So do a couple on that side. Then I like to come over here and do a couple to make sure that my tree stays balanced in the frame. Just make a nice round. Attach it. And we'll put some curves and some interest into these. We won't leave them so straight. And then with this one, I'm going to drop to the lower spiral right there. Just kind of get them attractively spaced around your frame. And then we can get the, just like that, I think is, I like mine a little bit. So kind of like that, and then we'll get the other one on. Kind of the same idea, get it attractively placed on your frame. Kind of put the main split of it, you know, right there at the base of your spiral. Oh, I like those arms up a little bit versus out. I'm going to make a little adjustment. Then I'll put some interesting turns into these. This way you don't cut these off until you know how you want to adjust your branches. All right, so now we'll go to this one and attach it in the same way. Get everything held where you want it. And then carefully work these through the frame and get one nice loop. You don't have to make it super tight. We'll tighten it up and then make adjustments when we get them both on. Go through this one. Now with these, you can just attach how yours fit best. Okay, so cute. So I've got two earrings that are, ooh, pretty similar. That's really cute. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to make sure, you know, the important thing is that this is the center top, so that you have the base of your tree coming down where you want it. To make some interest in these branches, because we're not going to put too many beads on them, you just take your plier and make little curves and dents in them, just one or two here and there. You're not really putting a whole lot of plier pressure on it, more than you're just taking the straight lines out of it. When you get it looking the way you want, you can start to fold these back over the frame here. We're going to add another wire as a decorative backing. So you want to cut these so that the ends land right on the back of that frame if you can get it. Most of our loops are pretty tight, but we'll cinch all of them up here even more. Having trouble with all my cutters. Ooh, these are really bad. Let's tighten that up slightly. Cut them right there. So I'm looking at the back side of this frame now. I'm going to get a flat plier. You can get your chain link if you want. And just tap these ends down and over really nice and tight so that you can kind of get them to the inside a little bit. Or at least get them to lay on the very back frame flat and tight. We're going to cover it tap those little ends over if you can. It'll take a little bit, you know, don't stretch all your branches back out to straight. Just work gently. And just tuck the ends because we're going to cover them. Okay, so there shouldn't be anything too major there at all. That looks pretty good, and that's pretty clean. And then down here, with these, I kind of changed. You know, if you want to do a traditional roots, you can just untwine them a little bit and part them out and attach them. Or if you want to do, you know, something a little bit different, just bend the whole thing right here. Carefully work the whole end through. Don't pull too tight. Just do a nice loop right there so you get a nice little bit of a bump. If you have enough space, you can swing it to the back. Make it come through. Just work patiently because these want to unravel as you work. Just curve it. You can bring it through this side. Just lay it down. Make sure there's not too much bulk right there. Come around to the back. You can get rid of this right there. Hold all the strands together. Get your flat plier and start making loving and controlled taps to get all those roots kind of laying down. You know, don't squish everything too much. And then right here all together, really close to the frame and just inside that little pocket. Cut all of them so that they're laying right there and they can tuck right there. And we'll just cover that or put a drop of jeweler's glue, super glue, once everything is done. Okay. And that looks pretty good. So you've got a cute little tree on one earring. Just going to tap these a little bit. And it's darling. Okay. And this still slides a little bit, so you want to stay centered to your little hook up here. Okay, so cute. So now we'll do the other one. Okay, so now we'll do our second one. After you get your branches where you want them, make sure to give a nice little pull. Turn them to the back. Snip them off with just a little bit to pinch under and roll back. Actually, I forgot to make our little interesting dents. So do that in your branches. And then when you like them, just turn these to the back. And then you can cut them off. Be real careful only to cut those. And don't accidentally snip your branch in the front. Ooh, this is such a bad cutter. My tools need an overhaul. Need some new ones. Okay, and then I'll tap them and roll those ends to the inside of the frame there, just to the inside edge if you can. So cute. We're still going to tie our beads on, so we'll have an opportunity to tie more, tie them down more. So don't worry so much. Right here at the bottom, once you're lined up the way you want to be, just get a nice back bend. Come through the left side. Ooh. Brace it right here and get a nice wrap over. Press it close. Just jump the little bump right there. Come through that side. Get your plier. Make a clean cut right into that little pocket right there. Just real low and tight. And then tap those little ends right there. Okay, so that's tree number 2. Earring number 2. Totally cute. My branch has shifted a little bit, and that's okay. I like that. And that's pretty good. Alright, so now we can add our little cute beads. So just clear all of this little debris. Be real careful about sweeping them. Actually, don't do it with your hands. Get your cardboard. Clear your space. Alright, so I like to tie on using 28 gauge wire. And I just like to take about a foot at a time. So I'll get my extra spool here and I'll grab an extra foot of 28 gauge. And since this is just a budding spring tree, let me pull in all the fun stuff now. I'll lower my camera. And you'll want to do this maybe on a felt pad or a paper towel, something that'll keep your beads under control. So I'll just part this. Here comes our train. I'll scoop out a few of these Peridot greens. I'm not going to use the dark ones because they're big, and I'm going to try to select some of the smallest ones that I can find. So first, I'm just going to find a place to attach to the frame. Since I have this beautiful spiral behind me, I can attach anywhere and start tying beads on. And I want to leave some of this interest here. So I'm going to try to keep my beads kind of, to this outside space here. So I'll just come in here, insert about 1 inch, And I've got the branch that I want to also, secure to the frame. So I'm on top of the branch, at least I think I am. Ooh, not yet. So I'm going to loop this wire and just get tied onto my frame. And I'm going to grab this branch right there, and I'm also going to tie it to the frame while I've got it. Just make one stitch, come back up here. Now we've done a full 360.5 around this frame, and we've got that little branch attached right there too. This one I'll just hold on to it for a minute. I could have actually centered this wire and done both halves of my tree, but that's all right. So now I'll pick up a couple of tiny green beads, maybe just 2, because this will be like my budding apple tree, these earrings. So it'll have a little bit of green that's starting. Then I'll have a little bit of pink. A couple of blooms of pink. So I'll drop a green one right there. Come in here. Actually, which ones will I get? I'll get these really pretty pink crystals here. I think these are just regular crystals, like not glass, but cut crystals, or they're rose quartz. They could be that. I cannot remember. I'll just drop a few of these and then pick up. This is where it gets difficult, is working with these really tiny 1mm beads. Whoop. That's why you're on a felt pad, so that when they bounce you don't lose them all. And I'll just put a couple of these blooms onto this wire right after the green one. And I'll just kind of loop them back on themselves. Kind of like that. Make sure that the beads are up against each other. Then you can take your 28 gauge, dive back through the frame. Try to make sure it doesn't kink if you can avoid it. And make a 360 around that branch. I'm going to cut this other one off just so it's not confusing. And you just work in this way, just like that. Pull them a little bit tighter. Make sure your branch arm doesn't move. And I'll dive through behind the frame and just cinch them right there to that spot. So cute. And then with my wire, I'm going to come back to the front. And if I can make it to the frame, I'm going to just do a few wraps right here and add to this little knot that I made and tie, some of those down while I'm wrapping. So I'm just going to make 1/1 coils, making sure that I get that little arm, that little tie-on. Make 2 or 3 nice wraps. try to travel to the right, you know, and into the rest of your branches as you work. You see how these start to do? So once you get a few of these wraps over them, it'll prevent that. And then we can add additional wire even if you want to. But these, you know, these are earrings, so we want to leave them kind of slim. So we can just make decorative wraps with our 28 gauge. And I give you a foot so that you can continue to coil, you know, work through that little tie-on, and then just make single wraps around your frame from here to the next knot. And there's Jolene. Try to stay side by side as you work. You see how I'm controlling the wire so that I don't have a knot in it. Okay, and I'll bring this closer now so that you can see. And now I'm just going to keep wrapping, doing single wraps on this frame until I get to here. So you can see it better. Okay, so I'm just going to do single wraps from here to here with this 28 gauge that I have. Just work one coil over the next and side by side. Just like that. It's a little bit of work, but they're so cute. You just keep going. Sorry, I just bumped my camera. Make it all the way onto, you know, the knot there. Position your branch where you want it. And then make these coils, you know, straight over that thing. And tack it down with this extra wrapping. It'll help catch those ends, but just make sure that you do catch them. So now I'm just going to jump this branch, and I'll make sure that one lands right where I want it. To help me fix that branch right there and to help me control these little straggly ends a little bit. I'm just going to wrap a couple of times around this. And you might not, oop, I accidentally jumped below. And you might not get all the little ends, but it'll help you to get most of them and affix it, the branch into its spot. So I'll get one more little wrap at the end here. And then I'm going to work back to the branch with this wire so that I can start getting some beads on this one. You can travel your wire however you'd like. Just make sure it's not too bulky right there. Looks pretty good. And now I can I don't like to just make straight pulls, so I'm going to wrap a couple times down my branch. Get the branch settled onto the frame right there. And now I can add a couple of beads. Okay. Doing this also ties the spiral together, right? So you'll have a more secure earring at the end of all of it. And doing these little wraps over those bumps will help to settle these. I like to just make sure they're all down there. You know, sometimes they shift before you wrap over them. Use your plier and get these little tiny points turned in and under. Okay. So now I'll drop another couple of green beads on here. Ooh. Or maybe just one. No, that one's too big. Oh, I forgot. I have that's why I'm a little confused about what I'm doing, because it was actually my green garnets that I wanted to put on here, which are a little smaller and they're inconsistent in their greens, which is fun because it adds a little play of light and color on the tree. So I'll add a couple of those. Just make sure your wire's nice and taut or pulled so that there's no loops or bubbles in there, so that your beads don't flop around. Just work a couple of beads at a time. So I'm going to dive back through the frame after adding 2 of them. If you add too many, then you get a wobbly line of beads. And I'm going to attach them to the spiral right there. And then I'm going to drop a dark pink one on there, I think. So I'm going to grab one of my dark ones here and open this strand up. Everybody is out doing their yard work today is why you hear all of this action behind me. Sometimes it's just like that in the neighborhood. Okay, now I've got a little dark one on there. I like to drop it all the way down and see how that looks. Oh my gosh, I love it. So I'll just use the frame right there. To tie that one on. Okay, and then you can just loop the frame here to get that one tied on. I think off camera I might have already done it. And then I'm just going to drop another couple of green ones, maybe this time a peridot. Just mix them up. And you know, try to put them on in such a way that they don't jiggle round. Sometimes you have to hold them, get the wire tight, and then do a couple of loops, you know, to get them facing forward, not falling through that little frame. Whoop, went through the wrong thing. So I will back out again. Come through this way. I think I'm going to add a little pink blossoms right there. But I'll make sure all that's nice and tight. And then I don't want to come down too low because I want all this little interesting splits that I made in the tree. I'm going to come down here and add these pink ones down here because I can see better. Ooh. I just popped one off my desk. Okay. So I'll add two cute little pink blossoms here. Very cute. And then I'll just find a nice nearby branch to attach them to. I'm going to cluster them right into here. So I'll feed my wire through there, keep the beads where they're supposed to be. I'm kind of tilting because of the camera. And just tie them on right there. I'm going to work my way back up to here and then wrap to here and probably have to start new wire by then. So to get these two attached, I'm going to keep wrapping around here. I'm going to get a little closer to the branch here. And then I'll just jump behind this green bead, grab the branch, and get back up here to this side. Okay. And now I'll just wrap coils until I get to this one. Make sure that you leave a little room here for your hook, but don't put this one so far down that the hook jiggles. Try to get this center one, you know, right about there so your hook stays right in that space. Okay, if you can. Otherwise the hook will stay anyway, but all right, so keep working on yours. And then we'll start new wire and continue to add a few beads. So cute. Try to scatter them around, you know, because these are little earrings, less is more. I'll come back through and fill that space, or I could just, you know, drop a bead in there now into this space if you want to, but I like to always just get a new fresh piece of wire. But if I wanted to before I go too far, I can drop one of these green garnets in here. Whoop. Let it fill that little space. But then I gotta make my way back up there. Well, I guess I don't have to. I could just start new wire right there if I wanted to. Because I've got a little bit of a jiggle on this bead, I'm going to make a wrap around it on the bottom of it. Just work yours however is best for you. And if your little 28 gauge sewing wire gets too brittle, just get a fresh piece. Sometimes if we work them too much, they get brittle. drop another pink one right there just to make it uneven. Kind of got too even of a pattern going. I think you get the idea. Get yours tied on the way you think is precious and cute. Just keep working your way around and add a few here, and then do the other earring. And they don't have to be the same on each side. So cute. Just keep wrapping. And I'll just use this a little bit to coil to the next one. If it doesn't break on me, there it goes. So I'll just make sure to end this last one neatly. Then I'll start another wire and keep going. So I got another 1 foot of 28 gauge. Since I ended my last one right there, I'm actually going to attach my next one to the one inside here. And that way I can kind of travel a bead up there and then discreetly keep coiling from that point forward. So I'll just make a couple of wraps. Keep your finger in there. That helps to, so it doesn't get kinked while you're pulling it back through. But try not to over rub, you know, this weaving wire. It gets brittle. Okay, so I've got a 1.5 wrap. I'm going to grab a couple of beads. I'll just hang on to this fragment. And that's good. I like that. So I'll get them seated nice. And I'll continue to wrap from here, and then you won't even see that little cut that I made right there. Just splice this right onto that. I've got this bead over it, so just holding on to that starting fragment so that it doesn't travel until I get some more length on here. And I can also use this starting fragment here if I needed to get a few more secure wraps or tighten up some beads or whatever. Oop. Sometimes it just makes a mess like what mine just did because it kinked going through, but that's okay. Just bring it to the back. I made a 360 and I'm just going to get rid of it. Lay it down on the frame there and then cover it with some bead wraps. Okay. So remember that this one wants to be a little closer to the curve, so you can trap your ear wire right there. I'm going to make a few more wraps and then I'm going to start adding some beads here. I'm just going to keep wrapping until I get to the edge. Now if I need to jump down, you know, I don't have to travel from the front. I can certainly come through the back here, and I've got these coils to help me. These big main coils. Whoops. Keep bumping my camera, sorry. So I just, you know, went from here through there. I can make a 360 and secure my wire right there, and then add a couple of beads. If you don't do the 360, that wire tends to wobble back. So you want to do the 360, get it anchored, and then drop a couple beads there. Love using them. And usually they're so tiny though that you can only kind of do this kind of stuff. Look at how beautiful. It has a nice little olive green to it. So it adds a lot. Just paint yours up how you want. Try not to get wires that are stretched. You know, try not to stretch your weaving wire, you know, through big spaces. Try to stay natural and work with a couple of beads at a time. Try to stay clustered. Try to stay interesting. And remember that, you know, 360s will anchor the wire, and that will anchor beads as well. So try not to just do one wrap around things. Try to get it 360 after your beads somewhere. Okay, love that. Okay, so I'll keep working mine. Remember this one, the only other important thing is that this one, you want to leave a little space there so that your earring loop can go through there. And then you can anchor these branches, you know, when you get near them, simply by crossing over them and doing the wrap. Oh, that's how close I have to get. Okay. All right, so I think you get the idea. And now you can casually work on each of your earrings. You know, I like to do them as I feel it. I don't like to rush them. And sometimes you can do them and put them down. Do several of these frames, and then you can sew on whatever beads you're feeling like at the time, right? Okay, so I'll see you when they're all beaded up. You're going to use 3 inches of wire, and I have 3 inches of 20 gauge round soft wire here. And I'm just going to cut them even here at the ends and make sure that's nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and take my round nose plier and just make the small loop at the end by turning it all the way around the dowel. For my earring to hang on. And then I'll take my nice empty Bic Lighter Now Jewelry dowel, jewelry earring shaper, and I'll get to the middle of my wires here, just holding them together. Put your thumb on the curve and then just bend these 2 wires around the lighter. Kind of pinch them together a little bit here. Make sure that you are center, so I'm looking to the center here and making sure that my loops, you know, land in the center there. These 2 little back bits, I'm just going to take them and turn them out slightly. Just get them even. or you can do them one at a time. And just do a slight back bend on them. You'll have to sand and file those ends and make sure that they're clean. And then I like to skinny them up just a slight bit together. Just pass those two. Whoop. And that makes a nice earring hook, right? So now we'll hammer the action of the hook here that has to hold its shape and down the long slope. I actually give the rest of it a bit of a tap as well, just to harden the whole thing up, since it is a long earring. Okay, so let's get the bench block out. It's going to want to open up as soon as you strike this curve. So I like to just start by holding them together down here. Take your hammer and just do a nice tapping on the end of that. And then just continue to come down the metal. This is the front face of the earring. So I'm just going to flare it just because. And then I'm going to taper down a little bit. And not flare so much, but hit for hardening. On the back side here, because it's so long and I want it to hold its shape, I'm also just going to give it, a slight tapping for hardening. You could also throw these into the tumbler. So with this one, I turned my hooks out. You notice the option also is you can turn your hooks in, right? If you wanted to do that, you would just bend over the lighter and then turn these in afterwards, okay? If that little bump right there bothers me, I can get my flat pliers or I can get my nylon jaws. I can just give it a slight tap right there. And get rid of that little bump. Open your wire, actually do it this way. Open your wire a little bit so that you have more clearance. And then just tap right there. And that makes it very nice. Okay. Now when I go to put my earring in there, let me get one here. Hold it down here. Open the hookup brace right here because it's long sloped, long wire. Get your earring facing the correct direction that you want it. And then close the hook back up. Hold here and fold back up. Alright, so in order to put our cute little earrings on, we just move these hooks to the side, these loops, using our plier, and give a little pressure right here at the neck of that loop. Insert it into the little space we created for the loop, and then just close it back up, give a nice tight squeeze, and you can wear the earrings, just like this if you'd like, or you can continue and we can embellish a little bit on these earrings. They're big already, so I'm not going to do too much. I'm going to take them off the hook to embellish. And I'm going to use 22 gauge wire. For my size earrings, if you made them similar, you can take about 13 inches of this wire, 22 gauge round. You could also just use 26 gauge, 24 gauge, something bigger than the top coil wire of 28 gauge. But I like a thicker look, so I'm going to use 22 gauge round soft wire. And right here at the middle of it, I'm just going to make a nice soft bend with my finger. Bend it in half. And then from my earring, I'm facing the earring. From the back side, I'm just going to come through the loop down here. Let me change my camera so you can see a little bit. You'll just take the wire through the back of the earring, kind of straddle your tree there, and just get, to either side of the tree roots that you have, so make your bend fit yours. Just get it nice and snug and hold it. Take a long wrap, help the wire through, straighten it out, straighten out the leading wire. Just push a little, pull a little, and when it gets down here, 22 is a little thicker, so this little back and forth action will help you straighten it out. Little thinner wire might be a little easier for you. Okay, and now once I get one, I'm going to come over here to the other side of the roots. I'm going to get the other one. And I'm just going to keep coiling from here to here with my 22 gauge wrap wire. And it just adds a nice thick accent to these earrings. Just work each coil carefully. And again, I'm using 22 gauge round, so it's a little thicker, but you could use 24 gauge or any wire that you choose, even half round, just to add different texture to this frame, these earring frames. And I like to kind of keep them even, so I'll make like 3 or 4. Then I'll go to the other side and catch it up with 3 or 4. And again, you can't really pull on this wire if you're using 22, so it's a little hard on your hands. Just feed it through, pull a little, push a little, get it close, and then go back and forth and get it tight to the frame. All right? If you need your plier to help you, get it through this way. Keep your thumb here so you get some leverage on the earring. Get to about here. Should be easy on your hands. And then if you can't quite pull it, you can get your plier right here. Just be real careful about not denting the wire. I've got a decent grip, but not, so much of a grip on my wire that I put a dent in it. And just help you pull it through. All right? Do all the way to here. Do all the way to here.
I turned to the back of the tree to help me a little bit with this side. Just keep them side by side as you work.
When it gets a little bit shorter, it gets a little harder. So in this case, for my hands, I am going to get my plier to help me. Once you get a few nice wraps, look at it, make sure it's real pretty on your tree frame. I'm going to even them up. I keep them even in case you don't want to go the whole way. You can end this wire, just count how many wraps you do on each side and keep them even. This 22 gauge gets a little hard on the hands, but I love the look of the coil. So I'm going to start getting my plier out to help me pull this around. Just keep a real steady hold on your frame so that you don't pull your beautiful tree frame out of shape after all that work. Oop, like see, I just slipped, hit my camera because I wasn't paying attention. I was talking. I just patiently do one thick coil at a time here. If you get them a little apart, just take your finger and move them back together. That looks pretty good. Ooh, it's getting a little tough to do here. And now I'm just going to pull with the very end of it. Don't hit yourself with the plier if you slip. I've done that. Just make as many as you feel comfortable making. I'm also stretched out a little bit to the camera, so it's a little harder on my hands here. I love the way that looks. I might just end it right there for the sake of it. No, I've got only a couple more and I want to do them because I have enough wire. Just be real careful with each one. Bend it way out here. The wire's going to get real stiff and crunchy and hard on you when you get this many wraps on it. And I might actually just have to start using my plier the rest of the way. I'm going to try to get one more. You can do what's comfortable for you. Ooh. And I'm just going to end it. Ooh, that looks great. I'm just going to cut it back here. I'm going to tap it to make sure my coil's laying down nice. I'm going to cut it with just enough to roll inside. Not back out the other direction, but just enough to tuck inside. Be real careful not to cut anything else off. So just leave about 1 or 2 millimeter. Take a nice narrow plier. Just tap that cut to the inside. And finish up this side and then do the other earring too. It's easier for me to wrap with my right hand on this thick wire, so I'm turning the frame to the back. Probably get my plier out to help me here again. Go from way out here, make a long curl, long bend, and push a little, pull a little, push a little, pull a little, and get it right up there. Long bend through, pull a little, push a little, pull a little, push a little, pull a little. You know, that's how you do it without the plier. You can get the plier, it's kind of the same way, but the plier will help you get it cinched up there pretty good. Pull a little. When it gets this short, you can pretty much pull it through. Just keep your frame braced. Be careful of this hand holding for too long too. It can sometimes start to ache. I try to get a couple more on this. Ooh, and I think that last one's going to be it. So I'll snip it right there. Just enough to turn under and to the inside. Okay. Ooh, I love the way that looks. Puts a little heftier feel on the frame. I probably could have done one more there, but my hands were hurting. It's okay. All right, so I love that. I'll do the other earring now. All right, so I have this done for both of my cute little earrings now. Ooh, I love the way that looks. And the other last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of this coil to the very neck of the ear wire, just for, because it's a long slope, so just for some fun texture. It might be too thick, so I think I'm going to do it in 24 gauge, and I'll just take about 6 inches per earring. And this is optional. You certainly don't have to do it. And just right here at the hook, I'll get a little bit started, and I'll make a few coils. 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll just end it with 7, maybe one more, 8. But anyway, you count yours. Be real careful. Tap the coils together here. Tap the first and last one. And you'll just cut them and barely land them on the inside edge of this frame. So same thing. Cut with just like 1 millimeter to spare. Just enough to turn under, but not so much that you have to deal with it poking out the other side. And again, this is optional. Just tap it in there so it's laying there at the back. Nice close cut. Don't take your earring out of shape when you do this. Right? Keep it nice and cute. Okay, then I'll just open this up. Get my earring in here. That's darling. Put the loop back right underneath those coils. And now I kind of have a look that extends up, into my earring hook too. Okay, so I'll do the other one really quick, and then that's it. You guys can enjoy your beautiful tree earrings. Make them with beads that match some of your cute pendants you've been doing, tree pendants you've been doing. All right, so let me do this other one. I'm going to wrap 8. So just get here and 1, 4, 5, 6, I think I went a little bit low. Just get one more here. 7, Finish it with the top here. I hammered these so the size difference in the area of the earring will make it so this coil might not slide back and forth. So mine doesn't slide, so I had to wrap a little bit at the top to make it even, which is no big deal. Tap that. Put the cute earring in place. Put your hook back in place. And it's so ready to go for a great day. So cute. You could add a little bead ball down there too before you put the coils on. Afterthought of mine, but that would have been super cute. Okay, I think I put this a little out of shape there. And those are darling. Enjoy your cute springtime arbor earrings.